Hey, boxing fans around the world, thank you once again for joining us. Another episode of Talkin' Fight, where we're talking the Olympics, we're talking boxing. What do you got for us, Christian?
Well, Graham, a few things going on today, a couple of follow-ups to things that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. So we've had someone new weigh in here, undisputed heavyweight boxing champion of the world and Canadian Olympian Lennox Lewis spoke out against the IOCs yesterday in support of local boxing star Mandy Bujold. Again, because he pays attention to Canadian Olympic boxing. Unable to compete in the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games because she was pregnant or postpartum during the qualification period. Bujold has been fighting, as you guys all know, to have the qualification rules revised to include her pre-pregnancy rankings. So, back on Friday, Lennox Lewis took to Twitter to voice his opinion on the matter, saying, "I find it preposterous that the Olympics, in effect, has denied her the opportunity to once again represent Canada." He wrote, "It's especially confounding when I've heard of that the Olympics have made exceptions for other women who have also made the same choice to start a family and still pursue Olympic dreams." Now, I was unable personally, Graham, to find exactly what he was referencing to the women they've made exceptions for in the past. But again, this is just simply what I'm just quoting what Lennox Lewis said here. Well, he did add that he understands that the IOC was merely trying to find a way to qualify athletes during the pandemic. He noted that the method of qualification shouldn't be so rigid that a top prospect cannot be considered or exempted simply because she chose to start a family. What he went on to say is, "I really hope that the Olympic Committee reconsiders its position here. Women should not be penalized for doing things that women do or making choices that women make." And I had a feeling that was the Canadian comment. For anyone who's wondering, was just looking to see if Carl from Last Bell was watching or not. Knew he'd be there. So Bujold's team has also announced on Friday that the GoFundMe page that was launched to cover her legal expenses that would be incurred during this fight to have the qualification rules changed has now reached its goal of $25,000 after receiving a single anonymous donation of over $13,000. Bujold wrote on the GoFundMe page that while it's far from over, knowing that we have the means to keep moving forward in this fight for gender equality gives me the confidence to continue forging ahead. So that's going to be our most recent. And obviously, we haven't heard anything back yet as from the Court of Arbitration for Sport and the challenge that has been launched at that level now. We haven't heard anything back, but as soon as we do, we will let you know. But more and more voices are starting to chime in as we get closer to the games, and it's getting closer to decision time for what needs to happen with respects to this IOC qualification debacle. But moving on from there right now, Graham, you and I were talking a little while ago about some rescheduled, reorganized, relocated tournaments, and how we felt that it's a good possibility that we could have maybe had this America's qualifier that would have negated the whole Bujold situation right from the hop, because it would have given her a chance to compete and qualify for these games, assuming that she did well, which pretty sure she would have. But one of the things that we've talked about is moving parts and things like that. Okay, let's say if, we always tongue in cheek say, Orlando, because Orlando keeps saying we'll take anyone. Hey, we'll do a tournament here. We'll host the Olympics here. And I keep saying, what about moving parts and things of that nature? So it's not just Orlando here. So we're seeing this happening now in other places, and we're seeing the first bit of a hiccup starting to happen as well. So looking at our just embattled friends in India who've just been having a hell of a time of this when it comes to COVID-19 and their training camps and tournaments and everything else that's been in the lead up to these Olympics here. So India's participation now in this month's Asian Boxing Championships in Dubai is starting to look doubtful. And it's because its 20-member team doesn't have the visas it needs to go to Dubai. The Boxing Federation of India's secretary said on Monday that the competition, scheduled to start on the 21st, which would include 10 female boxers as well, saying that the Indian men and women's boxing teams haven't got visas to travel to Dubai. We are, however, trying our level best to send the teams. That was according to Hemanta Kalita, who was with Boxing Federation of India. So Originally, New Delhi was supposed to be hosting the continental competition, but as you guys know, last month the Asian Boxing Confederation shifted the tournament to Dubai because of the raging COVID-19 pandemic in India, particularly New Delhi. So with COVID-19 crisis deepening in India, it's unlikely now that BAFI will even be sending any of its staff to officiate at the Asian meet. So Hermata went on to say, since we were co-hosts, it was planned to send officials to Dubai, but not now. The situation is so scary that I doubt any officials from India would even like to go. The men's team is currently training in Palata's National Institute of Sport, while the women's camp has now been restarted on the 5th of May at the Army Sports Institute in Pune. So the Boxing Federation of India had shortlisted 10 elite boxers for the Pune camp from the women's side, but so far only 5 have managed to make it there so far. 9 boxers, including 4 women, have qualified for the Olympic Games scheduled to start on the 23rd of July in Tokyo. So, yet more trouble for these guys. Visas this time, and not being granted the visas from what would have been the host country. So, I mean, that's got to introduce a whole bunch of new moving parts, not just from the athletes' side of things, but they were originally supposed to be sharing the responsibility of just the day-to-day running of the tournament itself, as well as judging, officiating, and things of that nature. So now with no Indian officials at all being sent to Dubai due to lack of visas and the ongoing pandemic, it's going to leave our friends in the Emirates scrambling to kind of hold together the infrastructure around this tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Moving on from there, though, hopefully they're able to sort something out. Hopefully we see some last-minute visas coming through with negative test results attached to them, and at least the boxing side, at least the fighters, will get a chance to go there, fingers crossed, if not the infrastructure side of things. Moving on, though, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, otherwise known as NOC, Treasurer Anthony Kariuki, has urged the Boxing Federation of Kenya to come up with a feeder program to revitalize its national team known as the Hit Squad. So Kariuki's remarks come in the wake of underwhelming performances by Kenyan boxers who featured a little while just recently at the Konstantin Korotkov International Boxing Championships. Now, according to Kariuki, the Kenyan fighters fought against very young and tactical boxers in Russia. Hence the need for the Boxing Federation of Kenya to change tack and tap some younger talent to bolster the Hit Squad's future assignments. Kariuki was the leader of the Kenya's delegation during the Konstantin Korotkov International Boxing Championships, which were held in the city of Khabarovsk, which ended just this past Saturday, with Kenya finishing only second to Morocco among African countries participating in the tournament, bringing home a couple of bronze medals. So Kariuki said, the championship was very good. We were represented by our side by able boxers and players who they, and where they were up against fighters who they might see at the Tokyo Olympics. But it's now important for the Boxing Federation of Kenya to come up with a feeder program, because most of our opponents were below the age of 25 years and our players were over 30, which does affect our performance. Even though they fought well, it was very crucial to involve a team. It's going to be crucial to involve the team in other international friendly competition before they head to Japan. So his sentiments come at a time when the Boxing Federation of Kenya is planning to send the four of the boxers who have qualified for the Olympic Games to the Philippines for another smaller tournament, as well as some friendly training. Recently, sorry, there we go. Sorry, just had a bit of a technical issue there. So the BFK's Secretary John Waweru confirmed that they had written to the Kenyan government through the Ministry of Sport on their intention to travel to the Philippines on their return from Russia. So during the tournament in Russia, team captain Nikokov won a bronze medal in the featherweight division, while Olympian Eli Ajawi also won a bronze medal in the super heavyweight category. Now, what we didn't see at the top of the podiums, unfortunately, though, was flyweight boxer Christine Ongare in the welterweight category, or Elizabeth Akinyi, who finished fifth in their respective weight categories. Now, I've said this one before. Christine Ongare, she's going to be one to watch out for at the Olympics. I know she didn't do particularly well at this particular tournament, but she is definitely going to be one to keep an eye out for at the Olympic Games. So that's an interesting problem that they're starting to face. Our friends down in Kenya is the talent pool apparently is drying up for them, or at least not being developed by the national confederation to a level that it could be in order to kind of replace these people. Because as you guys know, like Bujold, for example, great example. Mandy Bujold's 33 years old and already plans for this, assuming that she's able to get through, is going to be her last Olympic Games. Because at 38 years old, she's going to be coming in just under the wire at for Paris 2024. And the official cutoff for Olympics is 40. Although you're not going to see too many people competing at that level at that age. So to be able to keep up with the mental, physical, and emotional stress on the body of competing at that level, especially competing amateur at that level at that age, is difficult because a lot of these people still have day jobs. We're not talking about professional fighters where they're bringing home a purse at the end of the night. Unless you're at the very top of your game, you're not necessarily receiving any kind of financial support from the Olympic Committee, even if you are on the national team. If they don't think you're going to medal, you're not seeing any actual funding. So for someone to try to keep going later into their 30s kind of thing, the money's not there and it's a lot harder on the body. So these guys have to start thinking in a very real way very soon about replenishing that talent pool. My 2 cents on that one.
I think it's interesting. We see a lot of great fighters that we discuss on the other side with our other commentators with respect to professional boxers who come out of developing nations, Central America, even the Caribbean, Asia. And they're fighting out of poverty, for lack of a better description. And there's a will to fight, there's a will to make money, quite frankly, in that realm if you're good. However, there's no incentive for their governments to put up money. And a great example is a while back when we interviewed some Nigerian promoters, and they were telling us there are a lot of great boxers. I mean, given the size of the country, population-wise, there are great boxers in Nigeria, but they don't get the chance because they're literally competing in concrete bunkers, if you will, and training in squalor. And I'm not being derogatory in any way to my Nigerian friends. I'm just simply saying it's really tough in these developing nations to develop an amateur program when you have so many other priorities. On the one side, the government saying that, and on the other, the people having to feed their children, quite frankly. It's an issue. You and I know that. We've been around the world. We've been to these developing nations. We know their issues. So it would be a hard argument, I would imagine.
Hopefully yesterday's announcement, Graham. Hopefully yesterday's announcement by AIBA with those development grants that are now being offered, and I believe it was for national federations up to $20,000 US. Yep. So hopefully, I mean, it's not a huge shot in the arm, but it is definitely. I mean, we're not going to. And I said this yesterday as well, for ourselves or our friends in Great Britain or something like that, an extra 20 grand in the kitty for the national team is, it's great. It'll be put to good use, I'm sure, but it's not going to change lives. Whereas when you're talking about the possibility of developing youth boxing in Kenya or, in other places where they don't necessarily have the dollars behind it that we do. And then that's coming from, large sponsors, like Canadian Tire here and large international companies that are sponsoring national federations. Other places don't have those same ability to bring money in. They're not being gifted that money. So, in those cases, that extra 20 grand coming in from JSC Gazprom through the development deal with AIBA, that's going to make a huge difference to a boxer.
Yes, it will. I know it will. And that's why I'm saying it could only do great things in these developing nations that do have a huge talent pool, but don't know what to do with it. We've had some pretty good comments today, I gotta say.
Okay, I have to do it because every now and again I like to put my foot in my mouth, and I almost did it today on this show. And I'm gonna say this just because I know our friends from the UK are listening at the moment. So I'm sure you were watching Eddie Hearn's Matchroom on Saturday, Graham, and I'm sure they were as well. Well, through a spelling issue, I almost got on here and started chirping about Gamal Yafi's loss the other day when he lost the EBU super bantamweight title. Okay, and because the British Olympic team has a Gamal Yafi, and Galal Yafi. So, and in my head, I didn't catch the spelling difference on there. I'm watching Fight Night on Saturday night, going, I didn't think he would turn pro yet. I thought this kid was still fully focused on the amateur side, fully headed to the Olympics. What's going on here? And then again, he didn't do all that great either against. I think it was Cunningham that took it off him. But I was sitting there and I was getting ready, and I mean right up until about 15 minutes before you and I got on today. And I was going to get on here and ask for comments from Big T there and from Phil and Ray over at Last Bell going, what happened to you guys? And I realized that they are related and brothers. But, it was a good fight. But I was about to start chirping the British Olympic prospects just for fun. And again, they would have gotten the better of me on this one because I would have been corrected very quickly, I have no doubt. But up until 15 minutes ago, I was getting ready. I was getting ready to come in and start poking because it's me.
And we're glad you caught yourself in that moment.
Oh, you're glad. I'm sure they would have enjoyed it if I had. But
Right on. I guess that winds us up for today. We've had an excellent session, and I want to thank you for your report. That's pretty. These things are getting pretty extensive, I must say. And as you predicted a while ago, as we move closer to the Olympics, there's going to be a lot more interest, a lot more excitement from various countries making announcements, giving us more stuff to report on. But the comments too from people around the world are pretty interesting as well. We have to take those into consideration, especially our boy Lennox Lewis supporting Mandy. That's fantastic.
You got it.
Right on. So we'll see you tomorrow.
I'll be here.
Thanks very much. And thank you. Good viewership. See you tomorrow.